guys, Jared with Heartland Roof. I just wanted to kind of get on here and talk a little bit about my journey in the roofing industry. Because I think one of the main things and the biggest thing people are doing today in the roofing industry is content. And what a lot of roofers are scared of is content, and putting content out there. What was their journey? How was it like? What needed to be done? How can I be more successful? How can I do better? How can I do things the right way? And that's kind of the question here, guys. So that's what I want to talk a little bit about. When I got into roofing, I needed a job. Period. I'd been in a couple other career fields, been pretty successful. The first one I really thought was a lifelong career for me, and it just didn't turn out that way, and that's okay. But I needed a job, so I need to thank my parents who found me a job that was on a roofing crew. It wasn't a glorious job by any means. I was hoofing shingles, I was cleaning, doing all those things, and it really was not the best job in the world, but it was paying my bills and it was taking care of my family. So I did that for, a summer, good summer. It was hot, it was hard, it was tough. So thank your roofing crews, guys. Thank them. But I decided I could make a lot more money selling roofs than I could putting roofs on. So that's when I decided that I was going to sell roofs. I went to work for a company that a family member of mine had been working for and had a connection through. That seemed to be a company with multiple locations in multiple states, and I thought, well, this will be a good fit. Lots of nice, fancy wrapped vehicles. Well, I'd say lots, a few. Made it seem like they had a big corporate structure, etc. And it lasted about a week, and I realized that was not a good situation. So I answered an ad on Craigslist looking for a roofing salesman. And that's the key word here, looking for a roofing salesman. So after I answered the ad, I met with the gentleman, small company. It was just himself, older gentleman. And he needed a young guy to go climb roofs, climb steep roofs, do the things that maybe, not that he couldn't do, but he didn't want to do. He was just at that point in his life. So I started doing those things. Had a couple roofs kind of in the bag. One was a family member, one was a friend. Sold a few roofs and realized, hey, I can really make some money doing this. So after those two, got those done, made a little money, kind of hit a dry spell. But I was really grinding and working hard, I felt. And I got a call from the owner one day, and he says, hey, I've got a lead for you to run. And I said, okay, great. So I go to run the lead, and I pull up in the neighborhood, what I would call a higher end neighborhood in my area. And the roof was just, had significant hail damage, the gutters as well. Unbeknownst to me at the time, the customer already had a scope, insurance scope, estimate, whatever you guys want to call it, as well as a check in hand. But she did not want anything to do with, we'll work with your insurance proceeds. She wanted a retail bid. And that was the biggest problem she was having, was getting somebody to provide her that retail bid. So it's very important if a customer asks you, give me a retail bid, and I'll go into why. So I said, okay, give me a few minutes, and I get up on a roof, I inspect it, take some pictures, and come back down and said, hey, it's really steep, cut up hip roof. I need to get you an eagle view, and so I can get you a proper bid. And she says, okay. So the next day I get her a bid, and I can't remember if I emailed it to her or if I took it to her or how that worked, but I got it to her. and she appreciated it. She said, I just want to thank you. You were the only one that got on my roof out of all the companies I had out. And, you know, again, this was a hell-hit neighborhood, what I call a pocket storm. Not a lot of houses, not a lot of, you know, roofers in there yet. There was one company that had several jobs. Nonetheless, we began to work the neighborhood, and it started to go well, but it took some time. In between that time, I kind of really got down and out. The next day, the owner calls and says, hey, I've got a lead for you. It's a retail cash deal. The lady just needs a new roof. I said, okay. So I go up and I inspect the roof, and it's not claim worthy. It's just an old, you know, 20-something-year-old laminate roof. I give her a bid up against 3 other contractors. I say up against. She had 3 other bids, and I give her the bid, and wait. In the meanwhile, I'm grinding, guys. I'm knocking doors. I'm putting out door hangers. I'm putting out flyers. I'm doing a lot of those things, and nothing's happening. The phone's not ringing. Just not a lot's happening. About 10 days, maybe 14 days later, I get a call from the first customer with hail damage, and she says, I'm going to go with you. Well, this was a big deal for me because it's, you know, 60 squares, 1212. It's a very good roof. And most of you in the roofing industry know that a roof like that, a residential roof like that, is going to pay good commission. Within an hour, the cash deal that I'd went and bid the day after called and said, hey, I'm going to go with you. This was great. You know, I was really going to make some money. It was going to be great for my family. It was going to be great for a lot of things. So the day we did the build of the big roof, I'm on the build. That was, you know, part of my thing back then. I was on all my builds. And that's important too, guys, and I'll tell you why in a minute, and this is part of why. But I'm on my build, and there's a gentleman walking his dog, and I, you know, stop and talk to him, and we're just chit-chatting, and, you know, I ask him about his roof damage and where he's at in the process. And he says, well, I've already signed with somebody, but, you know, my wife's dad worked for Certainteed, and this guy just refuses to put Certainteed on. We'd like to have Certainteed. I said, well, if you'll give me the opportunity to you know, get with you, I can put Certainteed on your house. And he says, okay. So I met with him and his wife. I don't know if it was that day or the next day, but, you know, it was a short time later. And we ended up getting the job. And that neighborhood kind of took off from there. And that's how I sold my first $1 million, guys. There was nothing more to it than grinding. But had I not been on that crew of installing roofs, I never, ever would have known enough to go out there and do that. But my second year in roofing, first full year as a salesman, I did just over $1 million. Since then, I've had a couple of $2 million years in residential. I don't do a lot of commercial work. I have done, you know, commercial work. I know a little about commercial. I don't know everything about anything. I don't even claim to. I've had failures. I've had a lot of failures. I feel like I've let people down as a general manager, as a sales manager, as a salesman, as an employee. But I've always, I feel like, tried to do the right thing. And I've always been good to people. And that's the biggest thing, is be good to people. There's been a few other moments that have been really instrumental in my career that we'll talk about. But I just want to share my story over the next, you know, 15 to 20 days and give you guys some insight, maybe help some of you. But the biggest thing, guys, is you get what you put into this. You get what you put in. There have been people that have been very instrumental in my career. Companies, training platforms, people, several people individually. I'm not going to name names right now, maybe at some point, but there have been a lot of people that have been very instrumental and maybe changed my way of doing things. I may have been doing things one way and then switch it to another. Whatever the case may be, that you know, things like that have happened. And you guys will find along the way that if you really grind at this and you really work at this, you can become your own boss. You can kind of really help your family financially. There's a lot of good to it. There's some bad to it. But overall, the good outweighs the bad. And if you're in it for the right reasons, then you're definitely in doing the right thing. I hope you guys have a great Monday. We're going to have a great week here. And if I can help or you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask.